hear people all the time at conferences, workshops, all over, really kind of saying something that makes the hairs in the back of my neck, the hairs that I have left, stand up. And basically, it's we need to change education. We need to overhaul the system. We need to completely rethink the way we educate kids. And there's this notion that we have to change everything, as if nothing has worked in the past 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100 years or more. And this idea that um, you know, let's just redo everything. And I think there's a couple of problems with that. Mainly that there's a lot of good that came out of the public education system for a long time. And yes, it doesn't work for everybody, and it works for different sets of people. Um, but the thought process that we need to change everything is the thing that kind of irks me, because there's a lot of things in our current teaching, in our pedagogy, in our instruction that work really well. And I get to talk with teachers all around the country, all around the world, and a lot of times people will say, you know what, I've been doing this with my students for the past 20 years and it works really well. My kids are learning, they're engaged, they have ownership. Why do I need to change? Right? And so I like to kind of share an analogy that kind of points out that I don't think our conversation should necessarily be centered on what needs to change, more how can we do what works a little bit differently, right? And hear me out for a second here. So, Blockbuster, if you live in North America, you probably had a Blockbuster card. I know I sure did. Blockbuster had this business model that worked for a really long time, an extremely long time. And the thing that worked really well about Blockbuster's business model is that it was built on three things, three distinct things. Number one, people want cheap entertainment. Number two, people want convenient entertainment. And number three, people want quick entertainment. And so Blockbuster's job was to give people what they want at scale, right? And that's why there was a Blockbuster in almost every town, and you could drive a couple minutes and be able to get a Blockbuster and get your cheap movie, your cheap entertainment, bring it home, and be able to watch it conveniently and quickly. And so this model worked for a really long time. A lot of people say, oh, well, Netflix came along and they changed everything, right? They disrupted the whole model. They changed everything. And I get that it's easy to say that. But let's think kind of critically about what Netflix actually did. Netflix comes along and they start doing DVD by mail. And people say, you know what? This is cheaper than Blockbuster. It's actually a bit more convenient than Blockbuster, that I can just get it in the mail. I don't have to go down to the store, that I can line up my queue and put things in order. And it's pretty quick. Right? Comes, a couple days, comes to the house. It's nice. So there's the cheap, convenient, and quick. Well, Blockbuster says, all right, Netflix is all right having this success. We could do that as well, right? We could do exactly what Netflix is doing. And so Blockbuster, a couple months, year or so later, actually starts their DVD by mail process just like Netflix. In that period of time, Netflix had already adjusted. They had already changed their model to be one that now focused on streaming, and one that focused on providing a huge collection of movies, TV shows, and all kinds of documentaries via online streaming to lots of different devices. Netflix changed their model quickly with the times, but their model still was based on what works. That's the difference here that I think we really got to harp on. Netflix based their model and they said, man, isn't that cool that we can take the exact thing that worked for Blockbuster, cheap, convenient, quick entertainment, also worked in the times of the Coliseum, also worked in Shakespeare's times, also worked all over the world, that people want cheap, convenient, quick entertainment. And we can just say, what does that look like in 2013? And in 2013, cheap was $8 a month, not $3 every time you went to the store and got a movie. Convenient was thousands of titles right in front of you whenever you wanted them on multiple devices at your house, anything that was internet connected really, versus going down to the local store and hoping something was in and having to wait in line. Not that convenient in 2013. And quick was as fast as your internet connection was, as fast as your Wi-Fi was on any of the devices that you had access to Netflix, not going down, getting the DVD, bringing it back, putting it in, making sure everything works, that it's not scratched, all those different types of things. And so here's my point in all of this. Netflix changed along with the world, but kept the model the same, right? The basic principles of what people wanted, the cheap, convenient, quick entertainment, is the same. It just looks a little bit different in 2013 than it did in 2010, than it did in 2005, than it did in 1900, than it did in 1500, right? So bring that back to education. What has always worked, right? Well, I'm sure if Socrates wanted to create an engaged learning experience for his pupils and students, if it was human, social, meaning centered, language based, it'd be an engaging learning experience. Those principles have worked for a very long time. Learning experiences that are human and social, meaning centered, language based, engage lots of different people. And they've worked in education, they worked in our schools, at our work, in our training for a long time. The question is not completely overhauling what has worked. It's saying, well, what does that now look like in 2019, 2020, 2021, and beyond? That's the question we got to be asking as teachers, as school leaders, as anybody doing coaching, training, or in my case, with my 4 kids, parenting, is what does that look like? What are the principles that have always worked, and how can we rally around those, build around those, and really figure out how it works in today's world with all that we have going on and the change that is happening. So that's my question for you, is to think a little bit differently, not about changing what we're doing, but more about how we're changing how we're doing it. It's a small difference in kind of the words there, but it's a big difference in how we think about teaching and learning. I'd love to hear your thoughts and comments below about what you are changing or what you think has changed and what also has stayed the same that we can build upon and really focus on for the future.